Jason won that match against Shane, and Shane's the king, and he went up and stood in his chair. You don't stand in the king's chair.
Welcome back to another episode of the Queued Up Podcast. And listeners for a long time have been asking for some sort of mentality podcast, how to handle the pressure, how to get your mindset right. And I've been leaving it for a long time because I've been waiting for this podcast for a little while now. So I am very happy to be joined by the winning mindset people, Josh and Jake.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh and Jake, why don't you give your roles with the company and how long you've been there?
Sure, Josh, you want to start?
Yeah. So Josh Hinze, my role in the company is the director of operations, which means I do a lot of the day-to-day operations, behind-the-scene type of stuff, and I'm also one of the mindset coaches. So I work with different individuals and different teams from across a wide range of different sports. So, a lot of different things that I do on a day-to-day. And how long have I been with the company? I believe I started working with the company in 2016, so about 4 years.
All right. So Jake Hunter, I'm the general manager for Winning Mindset. I started in 2015, and I originally just focused on the mental coaching itself, and have had a bunch of athletes and teams that I've worked with since then. A couple years ago, we reached a point where somebody had to kind of take over the management role, directing all business operations. So I stepped into that out of a teaching classroom. Actually, I was a teacher by trade. And I've been doing that for about 2 years now. And in that time, we've grown from about having 20 to 25 individuals involved with the company to over 60, and expanded, from, somewhere around 160 athletes that we worked with and somewhere around 90 teams to over 235 individuals this year and approximately 200 teams that we've worked with.
We can start out the interview with basically just tell me a little bit about your company and what your guys' goals are in the industry, and what do you hope to help your clients and your customers do?
All right. So the way we look at all performance is that somewhere between 70 and 90% of, athletics, whether it be pool, bowling, volleyball, basketball, wrestling, football, is the mental side of the sport. Whether it's confidence, whether it's mental toughness, that ability to bounce back from adversity, 70, 90%. And that's what we kind of get from the numbers of the clubs and the teams and the coaches that we've talked to and worked with, across all age groups, whether that's the youth level all the way up to athletes that are competing at the world championships against, all the countries in the world. But what we find is that most people are only spending maybe 5 or 10% of their training time on that mental aspect. So what you see is this big training paradox between how important we say it is and how much time we actually put into it. So for us, what we have is a very organized curriculum to help athletes and teams grow that mental aspect of the sport, so that once they focus in on it, it becomes a strength rather than being an area that is a weakness or has just been really left to atrophy and not really grow. And so we do that with our mindset coaches working one-on-one with individual athletes. And we typically first start with an assessment of kind of where they're at. Some people come in and they're already very confident, but they're struggling in mental toughness, or they're mentally tough, but they struggle bouncing back after a mistake during competition. So we figure out kind of where they're at and how we can best help them grow. And then we take them through our program that's been utilized by thousands of athletes at this point, in order for them to be able to set themselves up to mentally have the best performances, which long-term helps them continue to grow at their sport and be able to become the best they can be.
You had mentioned several different sports that are offered that you have curriculums for. This is obviously a pool podcast. You don't have a curriculum for pool, but it's transferable, some of the other sports that you do offer, the same kind of characteristics of, a winning basketball player, or winning wrestler, or winning golfer. It all works off of the same mentality, right? I mean, if you're successful in one of them, you're going to have probably the winning mentality for a different sport, right?
Right. Yeah. I look at it kind of like strength training. Traditionally you see strength coaches focus more on like football or basketball, the mainstream sports. But as other sports have continued to improve and get more competitive, strength coaches have learned the needs and the specific structures that are required for athletes to perform in other sports. And so those weightlifting regimes have really developed from like kind of a one size fit all to like being very specific for every single sport that they do. And we've done the exact same thing with our program. And along the way, one of the things that we've really seen over and over again is that, confidence is confidence. Whether you're preparing to, take the game-winning shot in a game of pool, or whether you're in the last, 30 seconds of a wrestling match, you need a takedown to win. Being able to step up in that moment and believe in yourself, know that you're ready to go, know that you've done the prep work, and, those small little behaviors and habits that can help make you confident in that moment can be learned across sports. And it would be the same thing with like bouncing back from adversity. Whether it's in pool, whether it's in golf, there's going to be mistakes that happen throughout a tournament or in a game. And the ability to recover from those are the same, even if the technique you're using to play or the outcome of the sport is different. So even without a specific curriculum that is designed directly for pool, we're able to work with athletes on figuring out what it is for them that they need to improve at, where the mental aspect is stopping them from having their best performance, and then give them, proven techniques that are used across all sport levels to be able to address that so that they can perform their best. And like anything else, we're always developing, just like a good athlete, and trying to improve. And so a pool curriculum would be something that we'd be working on very soon.
So, Josh, you actually, one, I know you and you're a friend, but you also are a pretty high-level player as well. How have some of these different, procedures that he just spoke about, how have you been able to apply them to your game to make you a better player?
Yeah, I would say several different ways. I had first kind of got experienced with, the program through wrestling, as I'm a high school wrestling coach. And so we bring the mindset coach in to work with my team and my individuals, and kind of throughout then that kind of led to me working for the company. And, throughout that process, I was still, playing pool as much as I could, which wasn't much during, pool's kind of a winter type thing, at least when the state tournaments are. And that's also when wrestling is. But anyway, I think one of the best ways to improve yourself is to teach others. And as I was in the process of working with the individuals and teams that I was working with, I found myself being able to find ways to, relate the curriculum and the different things I was teaching others to my own, pool game and different things that I had struggled with mentally. But I think a couple of things that stand out to me as far as like specifically with pool would be, I used to be someone that would get very frustrated, like if my opponent got a lucky roll or did something, super lucky, and in my chair, I would get all kind of flustered. And then, when I would get back to the table, I would still be thinking about that. And then that would take a negative toll, at that kind of, at my inning at that point in the game. And, a lot of different things, but, I think just in general, being able to kind of, like Jake had mentioned earlier, just like overcoming adversity within a match, or, just simply being able to kind of redefine the definition of nervousness and the feelings that kind of come along with those. And, now being able to realize that like when I get nervous, it's actually a good thing. And being able to, through mindset training and stuff, of being able to tell myself, different things when I start feeling nervous. For some people, it might be getting the sweaty palms. It might be your heart rate increases. There's a lot of different things that people, associate the feelings of nervousness with. But throughout the systematic approach that we have with our curriculum, it's being able to, okay, when that thought or feeling is happening, you have the direct control of how you respond in that moment. And being able to do that, consistently time and time again has really led to me being excited for that opportunity in the moment rather than being worried about making a mistake or losing or thinking about the outcome. And just allowed me to go out and just play my game and play loose and, be able to, apply the technique and fundamentals that I've always had. I just haven't been able to do it consistently because of, the way that I would have, maybe responded differently, before mindset training came into my life, whether it be as a pool player, as a coach, or what have you. So I think those are, a few simple things that come to mind anyway.
And so branching off of that question, I've known you I guess you said you started in 2016. I'm guessing I met you sometime around 2013, maybe something like that. So I've actually got to see your last 4 years worth of pool, and you've made some pretty significant improvements in that amount of time. How much of that do you credit to incorporating all of these different mental techniques into your game, and how much do you credit just grinding and practicing and playing the game?
Yeah, I would have to give a huge credit to the mental part of it, just simply because of my schedule and just other things that I have going on in life. Pool, it's not like I have time to go to the pool hall on a weekly basis and get multiple hours of practice in. And I really only get to play, a handful of tournaments every year just because, once again, as a wrestling coach, the tournaments, tend to fall on the same days. And recently had a kid, a year and a half ago, which takes a lot of time. So I found that being able to realize that it's not necessarily how much time you spend training, but it's how you spend your time training. So finding ways to train more efficiently and effectively, and doing that through mindset training. And I do have a table at home. It doesn't get used often just because of what I had mentioned earlier. But if I have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I've come up with different things of, different drills and different, being able to replicate different situations and, telling myself that I'm in this particular match and, it's hill or whatever, and being able to really step outside of the box and outside of my comfort zone and do things I haven't done before. I think it's really drastically helped my game. And just, I think in general, really allowed me to enjoy the game a lot more too, where when I was playing pool a lot more, I would be so, worried and frustrated if I didn't, win tournaments or, win certain matches, and put a lot of pressure on myself to do that. And because I was putting in a lot of time, I felt like I shouldn't be losing. And, now just having a different approach and different outlook on it. And I think it's really helped my game in a lot of different ways. And so I haven't at all been playing more. It's just the time that I do play, I feel like my practice, whether it be mentally or, actually playing, has been a lot more specific and efficient. So.
Yeah. So we'll head back to a question for Jake now. So I am a customer that is potentially wanting to start the winning mindset. Take me through what would happen so that I would be able to basically start this program.
Yeah, well, probably the best place to start would be checking out our website, zwinningmindset.com. And on there, there's like a basic contact form you could fill out. And then after we realize that somebody's interested, the first thing we do is, a trial session. For us, I know that mental training can be really, really impactful, but we want to make sure that everybody's bought in and everybody understands what they're getting. It doesn't do us any good or the athlete any good for them to, sign up for a program and realize a couple weeks in that this isn't what they thought it was, or it's not something that they think is going to help, And so for us, it's all about that buy-in to start. So we do that trial session to see exactly how engaged they're going to be with it and make sure that this is going to be something that's going to be really effective, and then kind of start to get an idea of where they're at and what they can work on, so we can make a recommendation about what program would be best for them. And then after that process, somebody like myself or Josh are people that onboard new athletes that are looking to get involved with mental training. And then after that, we figure out who's going to be the best fit. So typically when we go to match somebody up, if it's something like pool, Josh would obviously be a great mindset coach for him. He knows the background of pool, right? So he's going to have a little bit more insight there, and also probably going to just be able to relate with him very well. Now, if it was somebody that was outside the pool world, we look for, what are the things that we think we can have a coach build a relationship with them around. One of the big beliefs I have is, as I have as an educator and I have as a mindset coach and somebody that spends a lot of time trying to figure out who's going to be the best coach for this athlete. Every significant learning experience or every significant growth experience comes from a relationship. So we try to match them up with somebody based on who are they going to be able to build a strong relationship with around some common values, core beliefs, or desires or world experiences. And then once they're involved with the program, we have program or like a physical paper program that they get that's over 82 different lessons that we work through based on what their needs are to help them grow, and then eventually to strengthen the areas that are already strong as we work with them over the course of the program.
The sessions can be done over the phone. Some of our clients, our athletes that we work with, they choose to do like a Skype or a video conference or something, which, that's something that we've always been doing, but, especially during, the time that we're in right now, it can be helpful. So.
Yeah. And you kind of hinted towards it. This is, to say the least, this is a very weird time we live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world is almost just completely changed in the last 3 weeks. What does a situation like this in basically, I guess, the world, what does that do for the training regimens you have? Does it change anything? Does it change the way that you interact with any of your clients? What does it mean?
Yeah, I really don't think this has been much of a change for us as far as how we do business, other than maybe add to our hustle that we're getting out there and trying to impact teams and individuals. I look at this as an opportunity for people to grow in a different way. A lot of times people are so focused on the physical training that they forget that mental side of the sport is something they should be focused on, which, we all get. Technique is important. The skills that go with the sport are important. I'm not saying, don't train those, but right now when we all have to train different, this is a time that mindset has a really big opportunity to impact a lot of people. We are basically doing business like we always have. Everything has been virtual, either over Skype or video chat for 98% of our customers, or over the phone for individuals. And so for us, we're actually kind of ramping up our services. I've been on video chat with a different team or a different Facebook group or a different assortment of individuals that are looking to learn more, looking to find ways to still be connected with their teams or connected to other people. I think at a time where so many people are more isolated than they've maybe ever been, the ability to communicate with others and still find a way to make this a time of improvement and growth, I think is really, really important. And so for us, we kind of see it as us trying to answer the call and offer ways for people to improve and train and grow when there's a bunch of chaos going on. Gene Zanetti, our founder and CEO, he's often said that anytime there's a change in schedule, you need to reassess your action plan. And this is a time that we're working with a lot of teams and individuals on doing exactly that. What is your action plan to improve during this? And I say that with the knowledge and knowing that there's going to be a lot of people unfortunately hurt during this time period, whether they get sick, whether there are some untimely deaths. Economically, obviously, a lot of people are going to suffer. But in this situation, all we can do is control what we can. And what we can control is trying to get out there to work with more teams, work with more individuals to try to help them improve their game and reach their goals in the coming years, with what we're experts at and what we're passionate about and what we love to do. Right now has actually been a pretty cool time. We're really busy over the course of the winter. And Josh and I, one of the big projects we've been working on is just kind of collecting client success stories and trying to figure out of the teams and individuals we worked with, how do they do? And, so we're getting this stream of results back from the teams that we've worked with, from the individuals we worked with, and just really cool stories and being able to connect with individuals that one of the first things they're doing is talking about how mindset training was a piece of this, right? And we'll never claim that like their success is our success. Listen, we're doing what any good coach does. We're trying to make the athlete better. We're trying to give them the resources they need to reach their goal. But when a kid gets done, win a state championship, when somebody places at nationals, when you see some athlete achieve a goal they've really been working for, and when they put the mic in their face and the first thing they want to talk about is mindset training, it's one of those moments that it reinforces what we already know, which is that this is an important aspect of athletics, and that we're doing a good job. Now, that doesn't mean that we're done growing and improving. We're always looking for more ways to get better. Just like a good athlete, you're never done in your growth. And as soon as you think you are, you're probably on the decline.
Yep, that strikes home. That seems about right. So we can branch off from there. And so you guys you had mentioned earlier you don't have a program for pool, but there's a lot that are applicable to pool. And you also said that you're constantly evolving and trying to create different programs and new opportunities for your customers. So what are some of the sports that you do offer right now, and what are some of the programs that you hope to offer in the future?
Yeah, we'll just start in the fall just to kind of try to keep my brain organized here. Football, soccer, volleyball, cross country, track and field, basketball, baseball, softball, bowling. We even have an academic mindset that we've started to be branching out to. Josh, can you think of anything I'm forgetting there? Golf is definitely one of those.
Golf. Yeah, we worked with an archery team this last year. That was kind of interesting and fun. Pretty much I think we worked with a poker player, which
we did work with a poker player.
Yeah. So, a lot of different like recreational type sports too, not just like your mainstream, high school or college athletic teams. So, a lot of, I think any sport you can honestly come up with or think about, we've worked with them. Water polo team, I know, rugby,
gymnastics,
lacrosse, gymnastics.
I worked with the cheerleading team this year. That was definitely interesting. And I know one thing that I had a conversation with, Jeff Sinetti, the brothers that started the company are Gene and Jeff Sinetti. Jeff and I were talking about one of the athletes we've worked with that's a wrestler. His dad is a chamber musician professionally. He travels the country and the world really performing. And one of the things that he's been talking to us about is, partnering to come up with, musical mindset, and it's like anything else. If you are asked to go perform, there's a lot of the mental aspect that goes into that, especially when people are performing to get a spot in a very limited amount of spots that are open on orchestras. And so that's another area we're looking into. We've looked into like things like water skiing. We actually brought on a new coach this year that's really doing well with us, who is, I think, top 8 in the world as a water skier and has a strong background in tennis as well. And so we're always looking for diverse individuals to bring into the team. Like I would say, if you look at our coaches, there's a few things that they have in common, but there's a lot of things that make them just very different, diverse individuals, which is what we like, because we work with very diversified clientele. And, so we're always trying to bring in people so that we can build those relationships that I talked about earlier. So, and then we'll just keep looking at what are the places that people need help performing. I can think of no better way to help individuals grow and improve than through helping them perform in very tense situations. I know that's probably another future area we're looking at is like corporate mindset or sales mindset, jump into the business world a little bit, because performing as a salesperson, performing as a corporate executive is not that much different than performing really well as an athlete, whether it's pool, volleyball, wrestling, or golf.
And I'll add a little bit to that too. Is I'm in the process of developing our billiards curriculum. I'm almost finished actually. I'm reaching out to a few different professional players and some of the people that have written books about the mental side of it, and people that kind of have an identity that based on not just teaching fundamentals in pool, but also the mental side. So I'm going to get some of their input, and I plan to have our curriculum ready to rock and roll here. I would say in the next week or two. So be looking for that. And so that's kind of exciting as well.
All right. And this doesn't have to be applied just to any of the listeners of this podcast, right? If, let's say, a listener of this podcast from California has 2 boys in football or 2 girls in lacrosse, and this could be applied to basically any sport. It doesn't have to just be for pool, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think anybody listening to this, if you have, kids at home that are involved in different activities, different sports, and they all go to school. Like Jake had mentioned, we have a program specifically for academic mindset and, help them, maybe they're stressed about taking the SATs or ACTs or, different things like that, or just life in general. Right. So that's kind of right in our, in our mission statement is, our goal is to, basically help people in all aspects, whether it be, athletics, academics, or just life in general. I think, especially during this time, I think you're going to see the rise in different, depression areas and things like that. And just being able to help people maybe, through some of that different stuff and just, help them become the best versions of themselves is a phrase we often use. So.
Yeah. And adding in a little bit with that, another phrase that we typically try to throw around to each other, and this is 100% authentic. I would never have stepped out of the classroom if I didn't feel I could impact more people in my new role than what I was impacting as a day-to-day teacher, using athletics and performance to build better people, right? If all we do is make you a better athlete, I really truly feel that we failed. This should impact every aspect of your life, whether it's being a husband, a wife, a son, daughter, in your future career, in your academic career, whatever it is that you're involved with, this should impact it, because performance is performance. And if you want to truly grow on the mental side of a sport, you have to grow mentally as an individual. I think without having that growth in all the areas, I think it's really a fragile improvement that, like, as soon as trouble hits, you're going to slip back into your old habits. So it's really about creating a new outlook on life and a new way to approach everything you do. And it's, as far as working with different sports, I got athletes that I work with during wrestling. Then they transition into baseball and we work on baseball. And then they transition into football and we work on football. And along the way, helping them figure out how to grow up into great people and do really, really well in school.
All right. So, Josh, you had hinted that you're going to have a pool curriculum started up in the next week or so. If any of the listeners to this podcast find this potentially appealing and want to basically try out your guys' trial, is there going to be a trial for the pool as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've got a Billiards Mindset Facebook page created, and I'm going to be posting a lot of different information on there. Jake had mentioned if you go to zwinningmindset.com, you'll see basically all the different sports that we offer, and there'll be a form on there that you can fill out to, schedule a free trial session with one of our coaches. If it's pool, it'll probably be me that'll be giving them a call. We've got all kinds of different online courses as well. So we've got like a confidence crash course. We've got goal setting course, mental toughness course. We've got all different things that people can do on their own. We've also got, as I know in the pool world, there's been several people who have written books. So we've got a book by the owner of our company, Gene Zanetti. He wrote a book called Developing the Predator Mindset in Sports, School, Business, and Life. That's could be really, really helpful for different pool players listening. So, yeah, I think, follow the Facebook page, check out the website. They can contact me, and I can certainly point them in the right direction.
All right. So can you give that plug for the Facebook page one more time as well?
Yeah, the Facebook page is just called Billiards Mindset. So if you search that on Facebook, I'll probably be going through and adding the different pool players that I know to that page. But in the meantime, the page is already created, so you can go to it and like it, and I'll be sharing a lot of different things as well as this podcast on there. And, I think it's going to be fun and exciting, and, hopefully, at some point we're pretty optimistic that like things are going to go back to normal. Right. And I think it's going to be pretty evident which people, chose to take this time as an opportunity to get better, whether it be training their mental side of it if they don't have a table at home, or even if they do, or whether it's just other sports, right? I think a lot of people might be kind of looking at this as super difficult time and making a lot of excuses as, oh, my gym is closed, or, the place that I worked out is closed, or, pool hall is closed, or whatever. And then, it's going to take a negative impact on their health, right? Nutrition probably isn't going to stay consistent, but eventually, whenever things get back to normal, I think we're going to be able to kind of, tell pretty easily the people that chose to take this time as an opportunity to get better rather than using it, as a time to just make excuses, basically, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff out there that we can certainly help with.
Absolutely. I know that I've done some podcasts in the last few weeks of how to continue improving for your pool game without being able to hit any balls for the next basically month to 2 months. This I guess I could probably make an amendment to that and add this onto it as well. This seems like a pretty good option to help out probably an aspect of the game that most people in pool, at least at a high level, our level, Josh, struggle with the most, and that's because it's the hardest to master.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, absolutely. So like for every one of our sports, if you go to the website and stuff, you'll see the mindset red flag. So those are basically the most common mental, weaknesses that we see kind of, for each one of those specific sports. But I think, as Nate, being to lots of different pool tournaments, being in the pool scene, it's very easy to just kind of walk around at a pool tournament and hear people making, all kinds of excuses as to why they lost. The guy got lucky, the ball rolled off, the tables, not level, that somebody was saying something, we could go on and on and on, right?
Don't forget the
and
skids.
I was certainly guilty as charged. And not that I'm perfect now, but I think, I'll definitely come up with a good mindset red flag list for pool. And I think everybody can fall into at least one of those categories. And I mean, it's so important. And, you walk around, whether it be at a pool event or a different athletic event, and very few people are ever saying after a loss of, if I could have benched 10 more pounds, I would have won that match or that competition. If I would have knocked 0.2 of a second off my 40-yard dash, I would have won that match or competition. Or, in pool, if I, would have done this or that, it's almost 9 times out of 10. Or as Jake had mentioned, when we poll a big group of people, it's 70, 80, 90% of people that'll say their sport, whatever sport it is 70, 80, 90% mental versus physical or technical. However, like Jake had mentioned, 5% or so, actually spend the time training. So that's kind of where we come in to help bridge that gap and make that equation a little bit more realistic.
So I think you at this point you guys have given a pretty good description of your company, and give one last plug to all of the places that you guys can be found. And if anybody that listens to this podcast in the future is interested in really taking a deep dive into helping their mental game, what can you guys offer and where can they be found?
Jake, you can take this one if you want.
Sure. Yeah, so we have individual one-on-one programs where we pair the athlete with a one-on-one coach that works with them through the duration of the program. We offer team programs where, a group of individuals can get together and have a coach that works with the group live to go through the program, and as a group learn about what the changes they can make to start improving their mindset is when it comes to their sport. We can be found online at zwinningmindset.com. If you have Twitter, we have Twitter. You can look at Facebook page or Instagram. And whatever sport you are, typically if you look on those different platforms and just search, let's say, soccer mindset, we're gonna pop up. On Facebook, you can look at Billiards Mindset Facebook page, and there will be a lot of information for you there.
Yeah, I think Jake definitely covered all the different areas that we can be found. And I guess I would just like to say thank you very much for having us on your podcast. And hopefully we're able to provide some value and helpful information to your listeners. I've really enjoyed your podcast, and I think it's a great thing for the pool world. So keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job, Nate.
Aw,
Right.
thanks.
Thanks for having us on. I was blessed to be able to join you guys from Philly, and I hope things are going a little bit better in Wisconsin than they are out here. It's kind of looking like a ghost town, and little bit worried about what's going to happen in the coming weeks. But I hope and pray that everything goes well, and the expectations that people have laid out are actually overreactions.
Yeah, I hope so too. I know it's a good time to have a podcast. There's plenty of stuff to do for this, and plenty of people to talk to, and no distractions. So works out good. Well, thank you two for coming on and joining me today.
We'd love to impact some more people across the world. So that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Nate, and thanks for having us.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. If you like what you've heard and you listen through iTunes, please subscribe and leave a rating. It helps others find the podcast. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Jacoby Custom Cues, Cody's Cue Therapy, Jeff Glaz's CBD for Life Global, the Wisconsin Billiards Hall of Fame, the Rocks Sports Bar and Grill, the IQ Practice Cue Ball, and the Wisconsin Pool Player Society. If you like what you hear, consider supporting the people who support the podcast. I would also like to take this time to thank Matt Kitzman, Robert Miller, Natasha, Kurt Elliott, Scott Doolian, Corey Smith, William Sutherland, and Mike Teasy for their help to market the podcast to a larger audience. Lastly, I would like to thank my cousin Andrew Mindham for his band Hey Captain Knight's music as segment and filler music to the podcast. If you like what you hear, you can find all of his music at heycaptainknight.bandcamp.com. And Knight is Knight.